It started like any other morning. Marty Hill, a devoted single mother of two, was expected at work by 8 a.m., but she never showed up. Her coworkers tried calling, texting, even stopping by her home, but there was no answer. Something felt off. When the police were finally called to check on her, what they found was a scene straight out of a nightmare. Marty was lying in a pool of her own blood in the basement, brutally beaten, stabbed, and barely clinging to life. Her face was unrecognizable, swollen beyond belief, but the one thing they could recognize were her hands, the only sign of the vibrant woman she had been. No robbery, no sexual assault, no apparent motive. Everyone who knew her was stunned. Who could do something so horrific? And yet, in the midst of the horror, a miracle happened. Marty survived. Against all odds, she would wake up, tell her story, and reveal the shocking identity of the person who tried to end her life. Today, we take you through every terrifying moment, from the attack to her miraculous survival, and the relentless pursuit that led to justice being served. The morning started like any other for Marty Hill, a hardworking single mother living in the quiet streets of Prairie Village, Kansas. She was known for her reliability and dedication, rarely missing a day at her graphic design job. But that Wednesday morning, something was wrong. Marty didn't arrive at work by 8 a.m., and she missed an important weekly meeting. Her coworkers, who were used to her punctuality, immediately grew concerned. Calls went unanswered, texts remained ignored, and anxiety started creeping in. By midday, her absence was impossible to ignore. Marty's boss, sensing something seriously wrong, decided to drive to her home to check on her. Pulling into her driveway, he noticed her SUV parked in the usual spot. Nothing seemed out of place on the outside. The door was locked, the windows showed no signs of struggle, and yet something deep inside told him that something terrible had happened. Unable to reach Marty, he immediately called the police for a welfare check. Officer Bill Baldwin arrived to investigate. He started at the front door, knocking and announcing his presence, but received no response. Walking around the house, he looked through windows, searching for any sign of life. The house was eerily quiet, and it was only when he noticed the unlocked front door that he realized he could enter stepping inside. He noticed her purse sitting on the kitchen table. It was normal, almost ordinary, but the silence screamed danger. Following the stairs leading to the basement, his flashlight cut through the darkness. That's when he saw it, a pool of blood and a motionless figure on the floor. At first, he couldn't confirm if she was alive or dead. Her face was swollen beyond recognition, blood covering every inch of her hair and clothing. The only thing he could identify were her hands, the delicate hands of the woman who was known for her kindness and hard work. Paramedics were called immediately, and Marty was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Her injuries were staggering: multiple skull fractures, deep lacerations on her throat, and signs of severe physical assault. Doctors knew survival would be uncertain. Meanwhile, detectives faced the daunting task of figuring out who would commit such a brutal attack, especially against someone so universally loved. There were no signs of robbery, no evidence of sexual assault, and no clear motive. Her ex-husband, who had maintained contact due to shared custody, was questioned and quickly cleared, leaving the investigators back at square one. In the midst of this chaos, one clue emerged: a handyman who had worked in Marty's home recently. Initially, he seemed harmless, but his presence that morning and minor inconsistencies in his story drew suspicion. Police began to investigate further, piecing together timelines, witness accounts, and forensic evidence. For Marty's family, the days were terrifying. They weren't sure if she would live, and they were desperate for answers. Her children were left in fear and confusion, grappling with the reality that someone had violated their safe home and nearly taken their mother from them. As detectives continued their painstaking investigation, the quiet Kansas neighborhood braced itself. unaware that one of their own was responsible for the horror that had shattered the Hill family's life. The tension was palpable, the stakes impossibly high, and the clock was ticking to catch the attacker before he could strike again. Every lead mattered. Every detail could hold the key to identifying the person who had attempted to snatch Marty Hill's life in a single brutal morning. As Marty lay in the hospital, unconscious and covered in blood, her family and friends were left in a state of panic and uncertainty. The severity of her injuries was unlike anything the Kansas community had ever seen. Doctors classified her as a level 1 trauma patient, a term that reflected just how close she had come to death. Multiple skull fractures, severe lacerations on her neck, and extensive bruising made survival seem almost impossible. Her children struggled to comprehend the reality, unable to recognize their own mother under the layers of swelling and blood. Detectives faced a daunting challenge: how to find the perpetrator when the victim herself could not speak or identify him. The investigation began at ground zero, with no clear motive, no forced entry, and no immediate suspects. Marty's life had been so normal, so routine. She had no enemies, no ongoing conflicts. The only people considered were those who had access to her home, but even that yielded little information. Her ex-husband, though initially a person of interest due to shared custody, was quickly cleared thanks to a verified alibi. As the hours turned into days, the tension mounted. Detective Sergeant Luke Roth and Jason Wakefield combed through every possible lead, reviewing witness statements, recent acquaintances, and even neighborhood surveillance footage. Then a clue surfaced: a handyman who had recently done work in Marty's home. His name was Brian Pennington, a man known to the family as someone reliable, friendly, and completely unassuming. At first glance, nothing about him suggested danger, but when investigators began questioning him, minor inconsistencies in his story began to emerge. On the morning of the attack, he claimed he was nowhere near Marty's neighborhood. His wife initially backed up his alibi, stating he had been home all night. Yet, neighbors reported seeing a red truck in the area that morning, driven by a white male of smaller stature. Matching Brian's description, investigators pressed further, asking about scratches on his arms. He claimed they were from a dog, but officers suspected otherwise. His reluctance to provide straightforward answers added weight to the suspicion. While detectives pieced together this evidence, Marty remained in critical condition, unable to communicate. Her family faced excruciating uncertainty, fearing for her life and hoping for a miracle. It was a tense wait, as each passing day increased the anxiety surrounding her survival. Then, a breakthrough came. Forensic analysis confirmed bloodstains on Brian's genes matched Marty's DNA. This evidence transformed him from a person of interest into the prime suspect. Detectives now had a tangible connection, linking him directly to the violent crime scene. Still, the family had no idea that Marty, even in her severely weakened state, would soon start to speak. Her first words were shocking and miraculous. She named her attacker, giving law enforcement the confirmation they needed. Meanwhile, the neighborhood and her co-workers, who had initially called the welfare check, realized the gravity of their action. Their decision to involve the police had ultimately saved Marty's life, turning what could have been a tragic death into a story of survival and resilience. Investigators now had the pieces in place to make an arrest, but careful planning was necessary to ensure that Brian could be apprehended safely. The tension was palpable, as officers balanced the urgency of bringing him in with the need to gather all necessary evidence for a solid case. As Brian remained unaware of the looming investigation, Marty's road to recovery was just beginning, a journey that would test her strength, resilience, and will to survive. Each day in the hospital brought small victories, from regaining consciousness to speaking her first words as her body slowly healed from the unimaginable trauma. Her family, though shaken and scarred emotionally, remained steadfast, providing unwavering support and hope. Through the meticulous work of detectives, the persistence of law enforcement, and Marty's own indomitable spirit, the case edged closer to resolution. But the emotional toll was undeniable, as every detail revealed just how close Marty had come to losing her life, and how one person's hidden darkness had shattered a peaceful community. The investigation, though progressing, highlighted the fragile nature of safety, the bravery of first responders, and the resilience of a mother fighting to reclaim her life from the brink of death. After the shocking discovery at Marty Hill's home and the mounting evidence pointing toward Brian Pennington, the investigation entered a crucial phase. Marty, still hospitalized and recovering from her severe injuries, became the key to unraveling the mystery. Despite the trauma, her first words stunned everyone. She identified Brian as her attacker. This revelation sent shockwaves through her family and the community. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces began to fit. Detectives now had not only the physical evidence, but also the victim's direct testimony, which would play a pivotal role in the case. With blood-stained jeans linking Brian to the crime scene and witness reports placing him near Marty's house that morning, law enforcement knew they were closing in. Yet apprehending him required strategy. Brian's behavior remained unpredictable. Officers had to coordinate meticulously to ensure the arrest would be safe and successful, both for the community and for themselves. Meanwhile, Marty's recovery was a testament to human resilience. Each day in the hospital presented new challenges. Simple tasks, like opening her eyes fully or speaking, demanded immense effort. Swollen eyelids, blurred vision, and severe bruising tested her patience, but her determination never wavered. Her family remained a constant source of strength, guiding her through physical therapy and emotional recovery. Every step she regained, every word she managed to speak, reinforced the hope that justice would be served. Detectives continued to probe Brian's background, uncovering a troubling history of aggression and prior convictions that painted a clearer picture of his capacity for violence. The community watched with bated breath as law enforcement pieced together the timeline of that horrific morning. Surveillance footage, cell phone records, and witness statements corroborated Marty's account, revealing the meticulous planning behind the attack. Brian's alibi unraveled as more evidence surfaced, including text messages and tower location data placing him near Marty's home at the critical time. As authorities prepared to make the arrest, public attention intensified. The story of Marty Hill, a hardworking single mother brutally attacked in her own home, resonated widely. Social media, local news, and national outlets highlighted her survival and courage, casting her as an inspiration. Marty's ordeal underscored the vulnerability of trusting strangers and the dangers that can lurk in seemingly ordinary circumstances. When the arrest finally took place, Brian was apprehended without incident, his attempts to evade responsibility thwarted by the diligent work of detectives. The community exhaled collectively, relieved that a dangerous individual was off the streets. Yet the road ahead was not just legal, it was deeply personal. Marty would face her attacker in court, confront the emotional scars left by the trauma, and rebuild her sense of safety. Each therapy session, each conversation with her children, and each step back into normal life became a victory. In court, Brian's history and the overwhelming evidence against him ensured that justice would be sought. Marty's courage in naming him and recounting the ordeal gave prosecutors the strength to pursue the case decisively. Beyond the legal proceedings, her story began to inspire others. Marty started advocating for safety awareness, sharing her experience with local groups, and encouraging people to trust their instincts. Her journey from near death to survivor highlighted both the darkness of human actions and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit, while the attack left scars, both visible and invisible. Marty's unwavering determination to reclaim her life demonstrated that even the most horrific events could not define her. As the investigation concluded with Brian in custody and the case moving toward trial, Marty's story became a symbol of hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond of family. Each moment, from the first terrifying discovery to the eventual triumph over her attacker, exemplified the tireless work of law enforcement, the unwavering support of loved ones, and the remarkable strength of a woman determined to survive against all odds. Her journey was far from over, but with justice on the horizon and a community behind her, Marty Hill was no longer just a victim. She was a survivor, a fighter, and an inspiration. As Marty Hill continued her recovery, the next chapter of her journey centered on facing her attacker and reclaiming her life. The weeks following the brutal attack were emotionally and physically taxing. Her injuries, including deep neck lacerations, skull fractures, and a severe brain concussion, had left her weak, disoriented, and dependent on family and medical staff. Each small accomplishment, sitting up, walking a few steps, or speaking clearly, was a milestone. Her family played a crucial role, offering constant encouragement, helping her through therapy sessions, and ensuring she felt safe and supported. For Marty, the hospital became both a sanctuary and a battleground. While she was recovering, detectives continued piecing together the full story of that horrific morning. Every piece of evidence gathered, blood-stained jeans, cell phone tower data, witness statements, pointed toward Brian Pennington. Law enforcement moved carefully, aware that capturing him without jeopardizing the case or the community's safety required precision and patience. Meanwhile, Marty's mind was a mix of fear, confusion, and determination. She struggled with the trauma of the attack, replaying moments in her head and questioning how someone she had trusted enough to invite into her home could do such harm. Therapy sessions included not only physical rehabilitation, but also counseling to process the psychological scars. Slowly, she regained the ability to navigate simple daily tasks, and with every step, she grew stronger in body and spirit. Detectives prepared the case for trial, knowing that Marty's testimony would be pivotal. Her detailed recollection of events, combined with the overwhelming forensic evidence, would be crucial in securing a conviction. Meanwhile, news of the attack and her survival had spread across the community, drawing both support and curiosity. Marty's story resonated deeply with neighbors, colleagues, and strangers alike, highlighting the vulnerability even in safe neighborhoods and the importance of vigilance. Her experience became a cautionary tale, but also a symbol of resilience. When the arrest of Brian Pennington finally took place, the community exhaled collectively, relieved that the person responsible was in custody. Marty, though still weak and healing, felt a surge of empowerment. Justice was no longer a distant hope. It was in motion. Preparing for the courtroom presented its own challenges. Marty would have to confront the man who had nearly ended her life, recounting traumatic events in a public setting while maintaining composure. Support from her family and close friends was critical, providing the emotional armor she needed to face these proceedings. As the trial approached, prosecutors emphasized Brian's history of violence and dishonesty, presenting evidence that demonstrated a pattern of dangerous behavior. Marty's testimony, detailed and unwavering, left a strong impression on the court. Beyond the legal proceedings, Marty's focus shifted to her personal recovery. She returned gradually to work, rebuilding her daily routines and regaining confidence. Physical therapy remained a cornerstone of her progress, while counseling helped her cope with lingering anxiety and fear. Each success was a reminder of her resilience and determination. Community outreach became another channel for her healing. Marty began speaking to local groups, sharing her story to educate others about personal safety and the importance of trusting one's instincts. By transforming her trauma into advocacy, she reclaimed a sense of purpose and control. The combination of justice, rehabilitation, and outreach symbolized a turning point in Marty's life. She had endured the unimaginable, survived, and emerged with a renewed sense of strength. While scars, both physical and emotional, remained, they were testaments to her courage. Marty's journey through recovery and the lead-up to Brian's sentencing exemplified the delicate balance between vulnerability and empowerment, showing that even in the aftermath of horror, resilience and justice could prevail. Through unwavering determination, family support, and the tireless work of law enforcement, Marty Hill transformed from a victim into a beacon of hope and inspiration, proving that survival and strength can rise from even the darkest moments. After weeks of rehabilitation, Marty Hill faced the ultimate challenge, confronting Brian Pennington in court. The attack had left her with life-altering injuries, but she was determined to ensure justice was served. Her physical recovery had been grueling, with hours of therapy each day to regain strength, balance, and mobility. Yet the mental and emotional battles were even tougher. Marty had to relive the horror, recounting the morning of the attack, the moment Brian grabbed her, and the terror she experienced in her own basement. With her family by her side, she found the courage to step into the courtroom, knowing her testimony could make the difference between freedom and conviction for her attacker. Prosecutors presented a clear and damning case. Brian's long criminal record, the forensic evidence linking him to the crime, and his inconsistent alibi painted a picture of a man with a history of violence and deceit. The blood on his jeans, the cell phone tower data placing him near Marty's home, and witness accounts all contributed to a compelling case that left little room for doubt. As Marty recounted the attack, she described the fear, confusion, and pain she endured, and the courtroom listened in stunned silence. Her courage inspired those present, showing that victims could speak out without fear. The emotional weight of facing her attacker was immense, but Marty remained composed, determined to see justice done. When Brian Pennington was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 28 years in prison, relief washed over Marty, her family, and the community. The sentence was a testament to her resilience and the dedication of law enforcement who had meticulously built the case. But Marty's story did not end with the courtroom. She became an advocate for personal safety, sharing her experiences with schools, community organizations, and online platforms to educate others about the dangers of trusting strangers too easily. She emphasized the importance of vigilance, communication with loved ones, and trusting instincts. Her advocacy transformed her trauma into purpose, giving her a renewed sense of control and accomplishment. Even as she continued to heal physically, the emotional scars served as a reminder of her strength and determination. Marty's journey also strengthened family bonds. Her children, inspired by their mother's courage, grew more resilient and empathetic. Her story reminded them, and everyone who followed her journey, that surviving a tragedy required not only physical endurance, but also emotional resilience and determination. Marty's recovery and advocacy work demonstrated the power of perseverance, courage, and hope. She proved that even after facing a near-fatal attack, one could rise, reclaim life, and make a positive impact on others. Her story also highlighted the crucial role of community, law enforcement, and family in supporting victims of violent crime. By staying strong, speaking out, and sharing her experience, Marty helped others understand the importance of personal safety and the strength of the human spirit. Today, she continues to rebuild her life, focusing on her health, family, and advocacy work, turning a horrific experience into a source of inspiration. Her journey from a victim left for dead to a survivor, advocate, and beacon of hope is a powerful reminder that resilience, justice, and courage can prevail. Even in the darkest moments, Marty Hill's story will continue to inspire countless others, proving that survival is possible, justice can be achieved, and the human spirit can overcome even the most unimaginable horrors.